Ever wondered why we hold on to certain things? What's the story behind a box of mementos? That drawer overflowing with just in case items? However, what happens when we hold onto too much stuff? And at what point does it become a hoarding disorder? Today, we're unlocking the emotional and cultural puzzle behind our possessions, especially within the AAPI community. It's not just about clutter, it's about history, family, and the stories we carry with us. Welcome to People of Color and Psychology, the show that explores mental health topics specific to culture, diversity, and communities of color. I am your host, Jack Sen. As part of our AAPI Heritage Series, we have an inspiring guest joining us, Julianna Chung, a professional organizer and founder of Collected Abundance, and a graduate at the University of Texas at Dallas in Arts and Technology. Julianna has a passion for creating functional, sustainable, and inclusive homes with a special focus on supporting those affected by chronic disorganization and who might otherwise struggle with hoarding disorder. Specifically, Julianna is deeply committed to understanding and addressing the scarcity of professional organizing services within Asian cultures, working to break down stigmas and provide resources for processing both small and big traumas. As Julianna so eloquently puts it, it's not just stuff you're sorting through. It's decades of stories, love, and sometimes heartache. Julianna's journey to this work is fascinating, as she pivoted from a successful career as an art director in late 2022. Her background in arts and technology, combined with almost 20 years of creative leadership experience, brings a unique perspective to her organizing work. And if that wasn't impressive enough, she's also a former competitive swimmer with a love for sports, the outdoors, and new adventures, and she actively contributes to local nonprofits. So we're thrilled to have Julianna with us today as we examine hoarding amongst AAPI populations. Welcome, Julianna.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and to talk about this.
We're recording this as part of the AAPI Heritage Series, and something I want to bring up just so we have a common language. So I'm going to pull up the DSM-5 here, just so we have a sense, just to provide a little bit of background, okay? But in layman's term, hoarding disorder is a persistent difficulty discarding or parting with possessions, regardless of their actual value. And this behavior actually leads to accumulation of possessions that clutter active living areas and cause significant distress or impairment. It could be for the person as well as those around them. And so that's the working definition that we have for today. Tell me a little bit more about your organization.
Yes. So I am here to help people in our community let go of things in their home. If they feel overwhelmed, there's a lot of people who don't know where to start. They feel extremely overwhelmed with the amount of things in their home. It's one day they turn on, the light clicks, and they're like, they look around the room and they're like, oh, wow, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so stressed. And so it's just helping people declutter the things and then organize the things to where they are able to function every day. They can come home from work or from school or from the day and feel relaxed. Yeah.
So that's the general overview of your work.
Yes.
That being said, though, we're talking about hoarding disorder. So,
yes.
which we're talking about another degree of clutter
Yes.
and acquisition of things that happens. Can you share with us what you have observed, especially within the AAPI context?
Yes. I've worked with a number of people in our Asian community who, the top three I want to say is people who have a lot of shame, who've experienced a lot of trauma, as well as the scarcity mentality. So there's a lot of backgrounds of how they grew up or where they've been through life experiences and journeys that have led them to where they are with a lot of stuff, layers and layers and layers of things. And it's all a secret. They haven't told anybody. Nobody knows what's going on behind the closed door. There's always this need to show perfection in a sense that, hey, there's nothing wrong with me, the Asian mentality of always needing to be the best. So it's the people I have helped, it's years and years and years of a lot of experiences that they don't know how to process. And so with that comes the stuff. I've found that a lot of the clients is they bring in more things. In a sense, they create a wall. So I guess creating a wall where people can't come in and they can't get hurt again. So then it turns into physical and they have a physical wall of stuff, right? So I've seen that a lot. It's a lot of the scarcity mentality, the need to be perfect and not knowing how to process everything.
Yeah. It's like the stuff is a manifestation of what they're feeling
Yes.
inside. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I have not, so a full disclosure, the clients that I've worked with who had hoarding disorder, they are not AAPIs. So I actually have not worked with any AAPI clients with hoarding disorder. So I want to be clear about that. My experience has largely been with white clients. And the symptom severity actually was more in the mild range to the point where they were able to come into the outpatient clinic setting and work with me individually and slowly discard items. So my experience is going to be much different than, say, Julianna, who is actively going into people's houses. And I think something about hoarding disorder treatment is, again, depending on the severity level, particularly once you hit, say, the moderate to severe range, you really need a team of people to go into people's houses sometimes. And I think, Juliana, you've actually worked with, I think, waste management teams.
And not yet. So I do require, and when it comes to a team, amen to that. A team is required. So I do require, depending on the level of severity, I do require a therapist on hand, a licensed therapist on hand, and that's to help with the psychology side of things. Yes, a waste management, preferably one that recycles things that can be recycled or donates back into the community. Another is a team of volunteers who can help with the labor. And then preferably also somebody in the inner circle, somebody of support. It's not popular. A lot of people who need help don't have a friend or a family member who is willing to stand by next to them. But that's preferred as well.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when there is the shame involved.
Mhm.
While I've worked with hoarding disorder with white clients, I have Asian clients who tell me they have family members who have hoarding. Okay. And so
Yes.
unfortunately, we just don't get a lot of Asian clients seeking the treatment. In fact, let me just kind of share a little bit of information. Again, this is just straight from the DSM, but for folks who don't have access to it, is that in terms of prevalence, you're looking at, let's see here. So community surveys actually estimate that the prevalence of clinically significant hoarding in the United States and Europe to be approximately 2 to 6%. Okay. And now keep in mind, though, this is important. While most of the research has actually been done in Western industrialized countries and urban communities, the data that are conducted, most of the data has been from Western countries and samples. Okay. So, which is why it's very difficult when we are talking about AAPIs with hoarding disorder, but we know it's there, it exists.
Yes, for sure. I have recently been connected with our area, Greater Austin Asian Chamber of Commerce. I have found that in order to be a part in the circle of Asians, the first step is to be amongst the Asian Chamber. And in there, people have realized who I am, what I do, and the amount of people who have started to reach out to me privately in regards with their relatives or their parents. I had multiple people come up to me, what do I do? Oh, I've been needing to talk to somebody for so long, but I didn't know it was a thing, and I didn't know there were people who can help or who can understand the cultural side of it, the why of why my parents have things or things like that. And the amount of adult children who have come to me and to even to tears in private has been astronomical. And even my own parents, they didn't really understand what it is that I do until they saw an article come out in the Taiwan, one of the Taiwan online newspapers articles. And it was just a sad story of it took many, many people, many tons and tons of things. And it was just a very sad story, just the amount of things accumulated in the home in Taiwan. And I think, again, my parents didn't understand the extent of it until that article came out very recently. And so, when it comes to cultures in the Asian cultures, we often, or our parents, maybe even now, depending on where you live, it's a multi-generational home or it's a smaller home. Here in America, we have larger homes, but in a smaller home, many people in a home, many generations of things, and many small things, many, stickers, pins, PINS, enamel pins, as well as PENS, right? The utensil, free things, glasses, water bottles, promotional products, plastic bags, reusable things, containers. Those are all small things. Oh, it won't take up a lot of space. When you multiply that by a lot, it becomes very overwhelming, especially for the children who now, if they live in America or in a Western area with a larger space, the mentality is different. And so funny enough, I have a lot of, I want to say the majority of my Asian clients are actually upsizing,
Oh,
which is
so now they're going to have more space. Oh,
yes. So now they'll have more space to put more things. So yeah, I want to say almost all of my Asian clients either live in a large home or they're upsizing. And this is seniors too. So seniors, you often hear, oh, senior downsizing. Everybody's downsizing because it's an empty nest now. They have transitioned into retirement. But all my Asian clients, they're upsizing,
oh gosh.
which
What?
is really
So
funny.
have they shared with you why? Now you're talking about Asian
Mhm.
clients who are struggling with hoarding are
Yes.
upsizing. Oh, did
Yes.
they say why? Is it because they need more space to put their stuff?
Yeah. So a lot of it is, given the economy these days, it's finances play. Also, it's, hey, we now have the finances now to afford what we dreamed of, which I do congratulate them. It's hard work to earn wealth these days. And so it's, you spend your whole entire life trying to strive for financial stability, that peace of knowing, hey, I don't have to worry about debt, or I don't have to worry about when my next meal is going to be, or things like that. So, and also inheritance. When us Asians, I'm not sure of the statistics, but we tend to pass at a later age. So, the inheritance, it's, oh, okay, I finally have my parents' inheritance, right? Financially. Now I can afford to buy this bigger house. Uh, yeah, that's a common one too. So a lot of things are saved in storage units until they move to the bigger place. And then everything in the storage units then go into the bigger home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting as I'm hearing you talk about this, as well as the multi-generational experience, especially when
Hmm.
you're living in communities and homes, probably more so in if you are in Taiwan or
Or
Eastern
Hong
country,
Kong.
Hong
Yeah.
Kong.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. India. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. It's I just think about my clients as they describe their parents. Again, Asian clients with the family members who are struggling with hoarding. I mean, they're talking about towers and towers of old devices, especially if you're in electronics, things, the idea that, oh, this can be of use one day. and there is this a scarcity mindset. Sometimes
For
it's going to be
sure.
helpful, and I mean, something we also want to think about too is, inflation, recessions. It
Mhm.
feeds into that. And we're having this conversation, both you and I, from a place of privilege, and so I also want to acknowledge that as well. And I do hear about some of the generations those who have lived, say, through the Great Depression, how it totally exacerbates and reinforces this idea of collecting.
Yes,
Or
yes.
not collecting, but this place of acquisition, acquiring, and
Yes,
saving.
yes, 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 yes. I was recently, you know, amongst many Asians, I want to say maybe in their 20s through 40s of age. And the big one is that scarcity mentality where their parents have experienced the war. There are a lot of Asian wars of all different countries, right? In the Eastern world, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, World War II. Yes, the Great Depression for sure, that affected everybody. And so, and if there was that inkling where they didn't experience the war, but they experienced immigration here to the United States. And with that, yes, they may have had a degree in their Asian country, but it's not recognized here in the United States. So they started with nothing. So they keep everything. And that's one thing I've noticed a lot of, keeping everything because they don't know when or if they'll ever get it again.
Yeah.
If something were to happen, because they know what it's like to not have anything at all, whether it be family, so emotional, as well as the things itself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the migration, displacement, all that
Hmm.
really plays a huge role when we're
Yeah.
thinking about this, because I'm just imagining many immigrants, there's only limited stuff you can carry over. And it's almost as though if I've lived a portion of my life internationally, how I want to access that memory again. And so it probably would make me want to hold on to certain items that would elicit those memories. It totally makes sense. And yes, there's a lot of wars that's happened. And so there is this component of trauma, I think, is going to be unique in exploring with Asian clients who struggle with hoarding disorder, or that needs to be brought up clearly, explicitly asked about. So, Juliana, I'm also wondering too, because I think you talked about the type of items that are kept, and you're saying they tend to be a little bit like small trinkets compared to your clients who are, say, white.
Yes. Yeah. And I think again, it could be, and I don't know, maybe you can add a little bit of your own insight to this. It could be because, they did migrate from another country to the United States. And so you can only bring so much, right? In terms of the smaller things. A lot of my Asian clients are well traveled, meaning they've been all over the world and they continue to travel, which is great. They are very culturally aware of different, cultures, Europe, Asia, Australia. And so they bring back everything, right? But at an affordable price. And so it's memories of all their travels, but it's not extravagant in price either. So it's not like they're taking out a mortgage to buy things. And so it's, yeah, all those memories of things from, I have come across utensils, eating utensils that were made from antique swords, glasses, so many things. Home decor is a very popular one. Um, yeah, there's a lot.
Well, what else have you noticed in terms of what's been shared for
Mhm.
regarding the reason for holding on to an item?
So the older generation, I want to say 55 plus, they don't explain why they hold on to things. It's
Interesting.
more of it's more of, oh, I'm saving it for when I have my bigger house, and then I'll be able to display it. Now they're the adult children. They don't quite understand. A lot of them don't understand why their parents have the stuff they have. But there are a few that have done some research into it, and they were like, oh, okay, well, I spoke with somebody recently. She could not understand, just couldn't comprehend why her father saved things. And her father has since passed. But, as we got to talking, I asked her the background of her father, where he grew up, how he lived. And she told me that her father grew up in poverty, in great, great, great poverty. And I told her, well, maybe that's why he keeps things, is because he grew up and he knows what it's like to have absolutely nothing. And he did live up in a very, very poor town. And again, as we got to talking more and more and more, her eyes lit up. And it was like a light bulb. She's like, oh, and then she started crying because she realized why her father kept things and certain things too, right? What is it that meant the most to him? Were there things that reminded him of home or his own parents or happy times, right? And so,
Yeah. I'm feeling a sense of, I'm feeling emotional listening to this story because
mhm.
uh, I can see why people hold on to things, those memories, those connections that are formed.
Yes, yes, yeah. And a lot of times it's, a lot of, and this is prevalent in the Western culture as well, but it's that feeling of, if I let it go, or if I won't remember, right? So if, for example, if you had a parent pass away or a loved one, well, if I get rid of this blanket, I'm going to lose their memory. I'm never going to remember them again. Especially when it's been a while, you tend to start losing the sound of their voice, or like what they looked like if you don't have pictures, and things like that. So yeah, and again, it's then that feeling of guilt, of heirlooms, right? Oh,
I should
well,
have saved this. I would
I
have
should say
remembered
this.
grandma.
Yes,
Yeah.
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 Or I know how hard my parents worked in order to provide for me for this thing that I wanted, right? They worked, you know, 6 months, or they had 2 jobs, or they had 3 jobs, and they got me what I wanted. And I didn't realize it back then, but I do now. So I know I can't get rid of it because they worked so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a deep appreciation for what our parents have gone through. And
Hmm.
so, and generations have gone through. And so I can see the reason now. Juliana, once you are working with clients or struggling with hoarding, how do you systematically help them release and let go? And I can share a little bit more from my experience. It's more so from the mild case. So again, it's going to be easier or different. So can you share with me how you walk your clients through discarding or organizing and so forth?
For sure, for sure. So the first thing is for them to understand that they are in control. They have the right to say whether they want to keep things or not. Now, not all professional organizers are that way. That's just how I go about it. I do not force any of my clients to get rid of things. That might not be the best suggestion, but there are times when I do give a nudge of like, hey, and so I'll word things a bit differently. Give the option to think differently of, what do you want tomorrow to be like? What is your dream? How do you want your home to feel like? It's, do you want people to come in? A lot of people that I'm with, they used to hold parties. They used to have family gatherings. They used to, have so much joy in their home. And so it's also letting clients know that their stuff won't go to the trash. Hey, I make it a huge, huge deal to find resources where their things will be treasured and reused by people who love them. And I think that's very important. If, for example, if you have somebody who loves quilting, and that's something that I love, if they know their fabric is going to go to a place where other quilters can use it and enjoy it, or not even a quilter, maybe somebody who sews clothes. They'll know that their things are going into the hands of somebody who will take care of them, and not
Yeah.
go in the trash. Yeah.
It's interesting you're talking about this from an organizational standpoint, because we
Mhm.
also do that in our sessions, which is helping clients make the choice of, well, what items would you like to maybe parse down? And the fact that they've already made it into the outpatient office is already telling us that the client's motivated. They do see that it's an issue. So there's an added nuance there in terms of willingness to reorganize, to discard, to parse down, and declutter essentially. And so, from a clinical standpoint, there is oftentimes, hey, you list two items. What do you think you'd like to tackle next? And of course, we sometimes have them use what we call an exposure hierarchy, which is list what's the most difficult thing you see yourself discarding and rate that a 10. The thing that's easiest to discard, rate that a 1, just so they have an idea. And we gradually fill in the blanks so they systematically walk through the either discard process. Now, I use the word discard loosely because, like you're saying, in terms of making the reorganization process more meaningful, with the clients I treated, we did have them donate their clothing. We did have them, for instance, donate, just craft items. We've had, one of my, just an example of the degree of hoarding. The client I worked with still probably in their 20s, early 20s, still maintained a toilet paper roll, an empty toilet paper roll that their father gave them to make a toy sword when they were a kiddo. So, I mean, we're talking about years and years of things that for most of us see no value in the item. Before the client, it did. And so this item was later on reused for a crafting agency. There's a lot in town here in Austin, fortunately. So those are great ideas. It's interesting. Yeah, we do that in the office, but you're actually stepping into people's homes to do this.
Oh, yes. So you're right to say that the clients who come to me in urgent need, so whether they're needing to move right away or somebody who's ready for change. And so you have that first step. I do not go into people's homes who do not want me, who are, it's sad to say, but you cannot help somebody who does not want the help. So the fact that somebody reaches out to me just to even start the conversation shows a lot. And now it is very often where people who exhibit hoarding behaviors and tendencies, they might go away for a bit, and that's normal. That feeling of fright, it's like that flight or fright mode. And so it's needing to be non-judgmental, don't have shame, and giving them space and time to comprehend, and showing compassion as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the compassion really comes as we create space for them to share their experience, to talk about it. And the other thing I want to point out too, as we're thinking about severity, we do actually have several assessments out there. I'm actually going to link
Yes.
it to the show notes. You can actually find us on the IOCDF website. 3 self-report measures. One's called a saving inventory revised. Second is hoarding rating scale. And the third one is the clutter image rating. I've used the clutter image rating, and I think that's a good idea for most folks who haven't treated hoarding disorder to get an idea of the different type of stuff that gets piled up. I think the savings inventory revised, I think the disadvantage to that is it's not assessing the stress level. It's just getting an idea of the how severe the clutter, discarding, and acquisition of stuff is. So not a sense of distress. I think the hoarding rating scale does a better job of getting the distress piece. But the clutter image is great visually for many of us who want to understand what's the benchmark of how bad things are. And I think, I remember watching a few episodes of Hoarding on HBO. This is a while back. So that's really, really extreme cases. But I have not encountered those situations.
Yes, yes, yes. So I am a part of an international organization, and it's called the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. And they also offer what they call the ICD Clutter to Hoarding scale. There's 5 different levels, and they have a quick synopsis of each level, and then they also have a more in-depth version. And so you're able to kind of read what is considered each level, and this is how I personally categorize my clients of where they are, and it helps with what their needs are, right? Do I need to bring a team, and how much of that team needs to be involved? And so, and everybody's different, right? We all grew up differently. So our version of what a quote unquote television reality version of a people with hoarding disorders is, what they're like, oh, this is the worst of the worst. And I'm like, nope, they're just a level 2 or they're just a level 3. And a lot of it has to do, hey, does the plumbing work? Do they have heat? Can they cook? Do they have a place to walk? Hey, can the EMS come through, right? Having a 35-inch width for things. So, and then another resource that's offered that I also use is the ICD Clutter Quality of Life Scale. And so this is where you're able to assess yourself, and just there's rankings from, I think it was 1 through 5 or 1 through 10, just to see where you are, and kind of then figure out, hey, do I need more assistance, professional assistance, or things like that. So I highly recommend y'all to check them out.
Yeah. And a lot of the severity level has to do with safety, right? How much
Yes,
can you navigate, move your space? Can EMS come in? Because yeah,
yes,
these are very important issues, especially amongst the elderly. If there's health issues, comorbid health issues, again, these are very important considerations. So, Juliana, can you share with us any memorable events and circumstances that influence how you got into this work?
yeah. So I came in very organically through the encouragement of a lot of my neighbors. There are a lot of people who were extremely stressed, which is normal. I think almost everybody, if you weren't directly related, you were indirectly related to happenings of the pandemic, and just seeing the stress level of everybody, and somehow having that ability to help people through the process, sorting through their things, helping them declutter. And especially when it comes to the Asian population, of that need to do everything, right? It's There was a client I have, they've been through some life circumstances where it gradually piled up and piled up and piled up. And so all of a sudden one day they woke up and they were like, okay, I'm now cured from, or I have now resolved my current situation, and I'm ready to now tackle my home. And so I want to say it's being alongside them, and helping them take each layer out of stuff. And it's memorable because I was able to see each layer of their life, of each trauma that happened. So the top layer was the most recent. And the more layers I went through with came more stories, more memories, and they were ready to let go. And they threw a lot of things away. And it was probably one of the most memorable people I've helped, for sure.
Mm, mm.
Just at the end, the relief.
The relief you must have seen on his face and the joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just one area, one small area of the home. But that in itself, it gave them life of, wow, I can do it. I can get it done. It's possible.
Yeah. So, Juliana, as a person of color, what were some challenges you faced and overcame that you would be willing to share in terms of your work here?
I would say the biggest challenge is that there are not a lot of Asian representation within the industry professionally. I think the majority of the people I know of Asian background are based in San Francisco, which is normal because, there are a lot of Asians in that area. And there are a lot of Asians sprinkled out throughout, here in Canada, but the majority of them are San Francisco, as well as the Asian countries. So a lot of people in Japan, in Hong Kong, Taiwan, etc., which is normal because those are Asian countries. But there's not very many people I can talk to for advice or to share stories of, hey, how have you gone about this situation and things like that. But, the more I've kind of plugged into the community, I try my best to network with a lot of nonprofits, organizations, other business owners and organizations around town. And just to hear, hey, what do you provide? What resources do you provide? Even if they don't end up being a client of mine, being able to network somebody with some resource that they need has opened my horizons of what is available and how much support there is. So, yeah.
Yeah. And for you, what does it mean to be an Asian professional organizer?
My biggest thing is share the love, the care, and the support to everybody, especially in the Asian community, being accepting. I think it's that being present of, hey, I'm here to help you. I know there's a lot of people in the Asian community who don't seek help because they think they're all alone. And so I would love to let people know that, hey, I'm here for you. And I might not understand your exact story or your exact culture, but I understand the background of what it is to be Asian and grow up with immigrant parents and that background. And a lot of different cultures that are somewhat similar in a sense of explain, why you have what you have. I kind of get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, you're saying you don't need to explain why you have this. Instead, tell me the story behind this. It's a
For
different
sure.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
How can we support you?
I would love support in just understanding the client's emotional needs, improving relationships, stress management, dealing with emotional attachments, handling resistance, and customizing services. My services to specific psychological profiles. There's a lot of psychology behind of what I do, and everybody's different. So that support would be great in terms of understanding the why more. And then, I will be able to ask the right questions, or change some things around in terms of where things are to be placed or should be placed, the functionality of the home. Hey, this should work with what you've grown up with or what your culture is, or, the past trauma that you've experienced. And then kind of go about that way.
Hmm. Well, are you open to consulting or consulting with other therapists?
Yes, I would love to.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know because what we'll do is we're definitely going to include your information on the show notes. I just want to share with you that it's such a fantastic resource for you and I to have connected here in Austin, Texas, because as you're saying, Texas is a wide, it covers a lot of ground. In terms of AAPI population, is not as densely populated compared to say like San Francisco, and so we're a little bit more interspersed here. So it's
Yes.
great to have a resource. And with AAPIs, sometimes there is a distrust. I mean, there's already a sense of shame and seeing that, hey, the hoarding, this is something that I'm dealing with. But then to invite a stranger, and then that stranger also not being AAPI, I think adds a little bit of resistance. I wouldn't say resistance, adds an additional layer, additional barrier to the helping process. So it's great that
Mm-hmm.
you're here and to be able to collaborate. Because depending on severity level, if you're in the moderate to severe range, you really do need a team
Well,
to help
trust is
clients.
number one. Yeah, trust is number one is gaining that trust. Nobody's going to let you into the home, especially when it comes to, I know a lot of social workers have this experience, right? It takes a lot of touching base, a lot of meetings, a lot of talking in order to even get that first foot into the door.
Oh, that's
And so
such an
that
important point.
trust is huge,
I'm glad you bring that
and
up.
huge. And once you break that trust, good luck. They will never open that door for you again because they have been hurt so many times. And it's funny that you mentioned about reaching out to professionals in the Asian community. I have heard from other veterans in my industry where is the exact opposite. A lot of their Asian clients specifically seek them out because they're not Asian.
Oh,
So it's
interesting.
the two extremes of, there's a body of Asians who only want to hire Asian. And then there's the other extreme of, no, I don't want any Asian to know what my house looks like.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why do you suppose that is?
That's what I would love to know.
Yeah.
I think, if I were to think of my own personal story, I think it's that shame, that judgment. It's every Asian knows every Asian. It's not
Yes.
true. It's not
Right. It's
true,
not
but it
true, but
is.
but that's the thought. Yeah.
That's the thought of, and like your aunties and your uncles, they all talk,
Yes. Mhm.
and so, if in Canada, there's a lot of Asians in Canada, whether it be Vancouver, Toronto, etc. It's the same, even though they're not Americans, they're Canadians, but they come, from Asian backgrounds as well. So the stereotype is similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Juliana, again, thank you so much for being on our episode. What a great conversation about hoarding disorder. Because you know, this is a very niche area, especially as it impacts AAPI communities. We need to destigmatize these conversations, and it's just so wonderful to have you on our show today. Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. If you're listening to this and this applies to you, or if you know of somebody, know that you're not alone. I think it's very important to know that there are people in our community, within our city, even in our neighborhoods, who can relate somewhat. They don't, maybe, we don't all have the same story specifically, but we understand the big picture. And I think there's a need to talk and being, even if it's with one or two people, when you share your burdens, it doesn't feel like the whole world is on your shoulders. And so whether that you talk with somebody that you trust or a professional, give it a try.
Great. All right, Juliana. Well, thank you so much for your time and your insight today.
Thanks for having me.
A huge thank you to our listeners. If you enjoyed this episode, please share and subscribe to People of Color in Psychology. You can also support us by registering for continuing education courses or making a one-time donation on the Multicultural Counseling Institute's website. Their feedback is important to us, so feel free to send an email, a message on LinkedIn, or leave a voice message on our website. Until next time, this is your host, Jack Sun.